This is our next rules video where we're going to be talking about before the match, how we set up for the match. And so this diagram is going to be very useful to you before you set your table up. This is our typical table in First Lego League Challenge. This table is 8 feet wide by 4 feet deep. On the table, you will have this mat, which is this big white rectangle here in the middle, and you will have multiple spaces. The first space we talk about is home. Home on the left is this big long rectangle plus this quarter circle right here. Home on the right is this big long empty rectangle and this blue quarter circle here on the right. So all that yellow space makes up home. There's a left home and a right home. Inside of home, you also have two important areas. You have the launch area. So you have the left launch area, which is this red quarter circle. And you have the right launch area, which is this blue quarter circle. So all four of those parts make up home, but only the quarter circles make up the launch area. And that's going to be important. So at all events, matches are likely to begin on official tables. Before the match begins, teams will need to pass the pre-match inspection and set all their equipment in place. So all of your equipment, so remember, equipment is anything you bring to the table. So we're looking at all equipment must fit into the two launch areas under a height limit of 12 inches. So if we're looking at our launch areas, that means that all of your stuff, everything you bring to the table except for those notebook pages, right, has to fit inside of this circle, this quarter circle, plus this quarter circle, and you have a height limit of 12 inches. So what happens if you're at 13 inches in one side and 12 inches in the other? No good. You got to get rid of something on the left side. What if you're at 13 and 11? Still no good. You got to balance it out. Everything has to fit under 12 inches in both launch areas. So if something doesn't fit, if you're too tall, if it's outside the area, you either have to rearrange it so that it fits or you have to leave it out. You can't use it during the match. And so that is our inspection. Now, if you can fit all of that into just one launch area and be under 12 inches, so one launch area and then the limit of 12 inches, you actually get a bonus. And so that's a bonus here. It's listed of 20 points. So practice that at home. You've got, when you pay your registration fees and your challenge set fees, you will have these launch areas to play with, and you can test to make sure, okay, how do we need to arrange it to, pass inspection and get that bonus? In addition, we say you will not be given additional storage space. So everything must stay on the table or in the hands of a technician. So you are allowed to, place things in these home areas. So this area here, your home area, or your technicians. And these people standing at the table, these students, are your technicians. So the tables, the areas to the left and right can be used to store equipment, and they've got the measurements there. Equipment stored on the table may extend past the left and right walls as needed. So there's a wall here, but if you have a piece of equipment and you want to just lay it down so that it lays kind of like that, that is acceptable. You can't do it over this edge because over here there will be another table. So you can overhang, this area, and that area. But you can't on this side or on this side again because there's another table there. And actually it says past the left and right walls. So if we're being totally clear, you actually cannot place equipment overhanging here or here. It has to be only over here and only over here. So that's a very good distinction to make. So after you've passed inspection, you'll be given some time to set up. You'll start by distributing everything as you go. So you might want some things on the left, some things on the right. There are things that have to be in specific places, but other than those specific things, you're allowed to place your models on whichever side you need, your equipment, I should say. The mission model, some mission models have to start on the left or start on the right, but your equipment can start on either side. And we'll talk about that when we get to the field setup and the missions. You'll place the robot in the launch area you wish to start from. So during that setup, you will place your robot either here in the red launch area or here in the blue launch area. It doesn't matter. That's just the first one you're going to use. You don't have to alternate. You don't have to do anything like that. You just pick one where you want to start from. And that'll be your first launch. So any remaining time should be used to adjust the robot and your equipment, make sure you're calibrated, have the referee check the mat. This is the important one. Ask the referee to check anything on the field. This is your student's time to tell the referees, hey, we think this model might be set up wrong. Can we double check that? If you start the match and something wasn't set up correctly, it doesn't matter. The match plays, it counts, you don't get a replay. This is your chance to say, hey, we'd like you to take a look at this, please. If you don't use that opportunity then it's use it or lose it. And if you start the match with something out of place, again, we don't do a replay, we don't do a restart. You play it as is. Then the team members must divide into groups. So this is a big one. This is a new one for this season, Rule 4 here. And we're going to talk about that just briefly here. There are 2 sides, 2 launch areas. If you have at least 4 kids on your team, you should have 2 kids over here and 2 kids over here. They can't swap sides. So if you start on the left, you're going to finish on the left. If you start on the right, you're going to finish on the right for that match. Of course, you can mix it up every match, but within a single match, if you're a left student, you're left the whole match. If you're a right student or a right technician, you're right that whole match. What if you have more than 4 students and you want to swap some kids out? Well, let's say, maximum possibilities, you've got 10 students. So 4 of them are going to be at the table to start with. And so these are left kids, these are right kids. That means you've got 6. You then need to break your 6 up into left and right. So if you want, 4 on the left and 2 on the right, then you've got 4 more over here that can swap in and out. And then you've got 2 more over here that can swap in and out. But just like the people at the table, the reserve technicians can't go back and forth during a match. So the long and short of this is to say, once you are on the left, you are on the left all match. Once you are on the right, you are on the right all match. You cannot change sides during the match, whether you're at the table or you're in the reserves. And that's going to be addressed in a specific challenge update. One more thing to consider is, what if you don't have 4 kids? What if you have 3 or 1? If you've got 1 student, then it's going to be pretty obvious where they go. But we will talk about what to do with fewer than 4 students when we get to the update video. But that is a question that we expect for some teams. But again, if you have 4 or more, you're looking at 2 and 2, and then the reserve, however you want to divide it up. If you wanted to put all 6 of your reserve on the left to swap out and have nobody to swap out on the right, that's okay too. As long as you've got 2 left at the table and 2 right at the table and nobody's switching during the match. If possible, position 2 technicians at each home area, and we'll talk about in a challenge update what to do if not. You can never have more than 2 technicians at a single home area at a time, but you can swap. So here, like I've got 2 and I've got 6 in reserve, I can bring one of those 6 to the table, but first one of these 2 has to leave. You cannot have more than 2 at the table at a time. But again, we expect this will come up a few times during the season before you get to an event, so you'll have plenty of time to practice it and talk about it. But that covers kind of the last of the before match rules. In the next videos, we'll be getting into the during match rules.